Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the Infinite Improvement Podcast with myself, Coach Christo, and of course, Coach Andres. Today, we're going to be talking about what we think held us back as players the most. So obviously, it'll be, maybe a difficult topic to talk about, but, we like to keep it real and be honest with you guys and help you guys out. And I think this is, it's something something important for us to kind of reflect on, for the conversations we have with players, because, neither of us are saying that we're not happy with the career we had. Obviously, just last week, Andres was telling us about this, incredible story of playing college soccer. Not necessarily like an easy situation, but something that he succeeded in. And, obviously, against all odds, someone might say. So neither one of us are saying we're unhappy with the career we had. But at the same time, I think any athlete looking back at their career will probably have, something that they think about, like, oh, if I had just done this, if I had been better in this one area or whatever. I think all athletes, have things they think about like that. So, what held us back as players the most? Coach Andres, take it away.
Yeah, this is such a interesting question because I think even the way you're explaining it, like wherever we got was a place where we learned a lot, and it's made us who we are today, the type of coaches, mentors, people that we are. But there's always that, okay, there could have been something that maybe got in the way of me hitting a higher potential, or get into a higher place in that season. And so as I was thinking about the question, the more than it's part of the story of Andres in the player stage, but it was I was able to spot this out by a story of one of my teammates. And so it was the summer of so it was the summer before my last season at UMass Lowell. And there was one player that I had played with for the past 3 years. I had played against him in high school. His name is Willito, but we call him Toch. And so he's one of the best attacking players I've been on the field with. This guy would make things look unbelievable, and like it was just like the thing is, like, once he did it on game day, it wasn't crazy to us because we saw it during the week. Like, out of nowhere, he's just hitting a bike. Out of nowhere, he's scoring. Like, he sees the goalie out and he goes and he hits it from like half the field. And we're like, what do you like? For him, it was like he was playing in the backyard. And his technique and he was just naturally talented, all around. And he also had the physicality, he had the speed. And so the only problem that he had was he had dealt with a lot of injuries, and it's almost like every season an injury got in the way. And then in his pursuit to become a professional, there was discouraged, like, oh, the injury setting me back a little bit. I'm not going to have the best season. I might not get recruited. And so this was our last season. It was his senior year and it was my senior year, and we were trying our best to have the best season possible. I think I went on a trip to San Francisco, and it was just a friend and I, and I knew that he needed to get something fixed in his knee before the season, so we would check on each other every now and then. And so on the trip, on the way back, I was at the airport and I got a text message from Toch, and he said, "Hey Andres, like, can we talk?" And then I was like, "Damn, what happened?" Like, I was like, "Whoa, did he sign a contract before the season even started?" Like, and so I was like, "Yeah, of course." And then so we got on the phone, and he was like, "Hey, like, I have something to tell you. Like, I know, like, I give everything for this team, and my goal is to become a professional. But I've made a decision that I no longer want to be a professional player. I got very important news that came I think it was like he said like a couple days ago, and it completely changed the trajectory of where I went ahead. And so he told me he got the news that he was going to be a father, and so he said, I'm not going to stop from being part of this season. I'm going to be there because I love the team. I love soccer, and this is probably my last season as a in a competitive environment. But I just wanted to let you know that like this is what happened. Well, one, the news that I'm going to be a father, and two, I've decided to stop going and pursuing getting drafted. That's not the reason for this season. And yeah, like as captains, like I just wanted us to be on the same page, and he'll support me and I'll support him in everything that he has to do. But it was a little bit of a shift in what was the priority now in his life. And so I left that conversation like first I was shocked. I was like, wow, like now you're gonna be a father. Like like congratulations. Like and what does it look like to balance he was gonna the kid wasn't going to come until after the season, but it was still a different perspective to life. And so we went about preseason. He didn't get his surgery, so his knee was a little bit off. So I remember like in the preseason, like we didn't even make him do the staff didn't make him do any of the fitness tests. It was just like get as fit as you can. We'll have you if you play one half a game until the end of the season or until conference play. Then that's fine. And that was a strategy. I don't know if you follow if people are following the podcast. There was one where we put the videos of me passing the ball around the defense and somebody scoring. That was him. So we were down 1-0 and we're like, okay, we're still in the game. All we got to do is put touch in and then he'll get us a goal and we'll be back in it. So that was the game plan. Like, and it didn't really bother him as much because it was like, I don't need to play a full game because I don't need to go show that I'm going to be a pro. I'm just here to help the team and, just live this one last season together. Yeah. And so long story short, the season came to an end and it was the best season that he had ever had as a player. He had the most amount of assists, the most amount of goals in all of his career, playing less than all of his other seasons, and being a little bit more injured than in all of his other seasons, and that made me just evaluate like what was this. Why was he playing so much more free? Why was he enjoying himself a lot more? And then at the end of our last game, we won the regular season. And there was party, there was celebration, and then he came to me and he was like, Andres, like, I know we talked about this before the season, and I thought it was gonna be over, but I got an offer, and I'm gonna get drafted, come draft. And then I was like, wow, like this is crazy because like we went from trying our best to make it happen to like not even worrying about it to now you have a contract on the table, and then he got drafted by FC Dallas. So he went with them at the end of that season. And I think when I look back and say what was the differentiator, it was detaching from this destination or detaching from a pursuit. It was detaching from some place that I have to do everything possible to get there, as opposed to enjoying every game, every training session. If I get a half, I'm gonna enjoy this half. I'm there to be with the team. And until something came into his life that was greater than becoming a professional, he actually wasn't on track to becoming a professional. And so I think one thing that held me back as a player was this pursuit to become a professional. And I think the closer you got to this end of this relationship, the less free you played on the field, and you were more concerned about, will I make it, will I not make it, am I watch it, are they watching me, are they not, did I have a good first half, did I have a good second half, did I connect this pass? And so it built this arena that had nothing to do with enjoying the game and expressing the most creative Andres on the field. So I think, to answer that question, I think the best way that I can put it was that what held me back in my soccer season was was my focus on the destination. Um, and I think if anybody's focused on trying to get somewhere, it's very unlikely that you'll get there without knowing where's my next step going to be. And I think we talked about it last week. Like I wasn't at BU, but I was like, what's my next step? Waking up at this time, hanging out with this guy, and working out at the. And so I think it was more of what does my today look like and how am I enjoying it? Because the destination may be like I didn't graduate from BU. I went to BU, but I didn't graduate for it. So my perceived destination may have been graduate from BU, go professional, and it didn't happen in that manner. So I think, and I'll stop at this. Just try your best to detach from a destination, and just enjoy and be fixed on the people in front of you, the training session that's coming next, the game that's coming next, your family. Anything that's more important than this destination will actually get you closer somehow to this destination.
Yeah,
That's
it's
that's what helped me back.
interesting because, like, you know, obviously, you know, I talked to, and obviously we both help to, you know, try to get athletes where they want to be. But at the same time, you know, I had a coach a long time ago who asked me a question that kind of like changed my perspective on, you know, the pursuit of going pro. And it was, if you knew right now that you would never make a penny playing soccer, would you still play? And if your immediate response to that question is not a resounding yes, then you will never make it pro.
Yeah.
I saw, I don't know if this was an interview that like resurfaced from a while ago or if it was recent, but it was on some like BT Sport or something. And a woman asked Thierry Henry, what would you have been if you weren't a professional footballer? And he said, an amateur footballer. And it was so perfect because if you're in this for like money or status or fame or whatever, like just like when we talked about coaching philosophies and I said the first step is always enjoyment, it has to start with that, or else you're lost before you've even taken the first step. So I think, you know, and what you have to do to become a professional is become the best player that you can be. Show up and train and work hard, show up to games, play well, sometimes play less well, recover from that, play well again. Try to play for a better team, try to play in a higher division, try to succeed there. And if you do that over and over and over and over again, you'll succeed. And maybe you won't become professional, but I think that the goal should be playing for as long as you want to, enjoying it as much as you can. And if you're a competitive person, obviously playing at the highest level that you're able to. That should be the goal, because signing some piece of paper that, you know, you're going to get paid this much per month or whatever it is, like you'll realize when you sign that piece of paper, nothing changes. Nothing's changed. The game is the same. You're doing the same thing. You'll probably feel great for a couple minutes, and then it's the same stuff you've been doing. You know, it's not like this magical moment where everything changes. And I think that's a lot of players get kind of like disillusioned with that, because a lot of them think that it is this magical moment. And the hardest thing, I think, is not initially signing that piece of paper. A lot of players go pro, but a lot of them play for a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and a lot of them don't make it further than that. Staying a professional for a long period of time is actually a lot harder than breaking in initially. So I think that you're 100% right that a focus on the destination will only take you further away from it. And whereas like playing freely, you know, there's also like the him not playing as much, you know, maybe taking a step back. Sometimes that can be like, sometimes when you try too hard, and I'll talk about this when I get to my story, but when you take it too seriously, you start to like this has to be perfect and this has to be perfect. Like this touch has to be perfect. This pass has to be perfect. This game has to go perfectly because there's a scout watching and I want him to see me perform well. And you try to
Yeah.
control everything. Whereas, as we've talked about a lot, if you just let things happen, let the ball come to you, let the play come to you, and take advantage when it does, when there is that opportunity to play the killer pass rather than every time you get the ball looking for the killer pass. Like, that's when you play the best. When you let it happen, when you trust yourself, you trust your team, you trust your coach, and you let, because it's a process. It's and it's not like you can't make things happen exactly how you want to. You have to see how things are happening and then react, in the best way that you can, play the best you can, and whatever happens at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, and the soccer, not even just soccer, just culture has turned into this. Whatever craft I do, I have to become a professional, and I think professional has been equated to celebrity or some sort of status, like you're saying. And I think a big part of the health of your relationship and your journey is understanding what does it mean to be a professional, because the majority are not going to be in the Premier League or in the Champions League. So is that what you mean when you say professional, or is it even if I play in the championship, or even if I play amateur, and I'm getting paid for it? I think if you look up the definition of professional, it has to do with getting paid for your craft. And even like when you think about college, like if you were paid to go to, if you're
getting a
if you got some sort of
scholarship,
scholarship, you're getting some sort of return on your play. And so anytime that there's a transaction that you're getting something out of this, like you've already become a professional. So what else do you need to sign? Because then it becomes the question of like, oh, is it more you're trying to get up to a place where you get more status or more recognition, and then it's no longer about you or you and the sport. It's about what the sport and your title shows outside of you, and you will never be able to fully satisfy that because you could always
there's always something more. You're always chasing something.
There's something brighter that you could get to.
Yeah, unless you detach from that chase, that pursuit of happiness that's come up a couple of times, that destination that you have to get to, because there's always another destination. You can't unless you detach from that, the journey and just like enjoy the day-to-day, the process you're on. I'm not saying don't have goals, but you have to, a lot of the time when I talk about like goal setting and stuff, like you need more short-term goals than long-term goals, like 100%, to keep you on track, because you can't. Have you seen that meme of the guy like walking up the steps and skipping like 5 steps? Yeah. You can't skip steps in almost any process, or like if you skip steps, it'll catch up with you later. People will kind of like find you out, like if you haven't like gone through some tough times. It's interesting that you talk about college and like getting scholarships is like getting paid to play, and it is. And I say this all the time to players, like obviously you can have different priorities. If you don't want to go to college and you just want to play, like maybe college isn't for you. But at the same time, most players who go pro probably would have made, like, if you count any scholarship as like making money, because players get good scholarships. Most professional players are making like under $2,000 a month, but like a scholarship to a school in the States, that could be worth like 50,000 a year. That's double, if you got a full scholarship, and full scholarships are like, more rare. But like even like 20,000 on top of an education. I know, that's more than most professionals make. So if getting an education is important to you, which, I think getting an education is important. And, I think, at least, getting the right education for you, then that could be worth a lot, if you
Yeah.
get that through playing. So, it's not so, I think people have this like big misconception on what being a professional player is.
Yeah.
Well, I was playing in Greece, like, you know, we were making some money, but we weren't. Your facilities at college were probably 100 times better than the facilities we have. Well, we had, like, there's it's all about priorities, and being a professional player isn't, you know, the be all and end all, and it doesn't end when you're a professional either. So
Yeah. No, it's there's so many distractions that give us a misconception of what it is, what the definition of that is. And that definition is different for everybody. For some, it'll be high school, going to a prep school where you get, like, if you go to a prep school and you're being helped financially, somehow you're already getting paid.
yeah,
So, or if you go into an academy in Europe and now you're in that process of tapping into the first, you get to define what making it means for you. And it's
for
gonna look
today's
different for
today's
everybody.
day and age. I had a player sent me a DM the other day of a video he made about how, like, basketball and football players, American football, in the States, are like making money in high school by like being on social media and stuff, and how soccer players really aren't doing that. But, like, in today's age, like, you can get on, YouTube or TikTok or like
Yeah.
Instagram, like, you can be, if you're a player at, any level, like, you could be, like, I'm not saying, like, some people say that, like, distracts from, you playing, but it doesn't have to. It can be just like another element of, like, who you are. And if you enjoy doing that, I think that there's like a huge opportunity there for young players to take advantage of. Social media is only getting bigger, and there are a lot of negatives attached to it. But at the same time, I think, like, you can engage with it, responsibly, and it's a huge opportunity that maybe wasn't there. Have you seen, what's that Portuguese kid who gets like millions of views on all of his? Have you seen any of his where he's like celebrating afterwards?
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
like,
yeah. I think he's Brazilian.
Yeah, but this kid, like, he wouldn't be, like, without the internet, like, and this was like, 20, 30 years ago. Like, I remember when I was growing up, we still had like dial-up internet and stuff, like, it wasn't as all it, like, I didn't have a phone until I was in, maybe just before high school, right? So, like, it's crazy. There are opportunities out there now to do more than just make it pro.
And I think we've limited the amount of crafts that we can become professionals in, because we're fixated on, I have to become a pro through soccer. And I think the more you diversify where you can implement your skills, the more likely you're going to enjoy football. And it might not be as a player, and it might be as a player, but it was actually Dutch implementing or implementing a role that had nothing to do with soccer, which is a father, what helped him be less pressured when he was playing soccer. And so I think in your process of doing TikTok or doing Instagram, you're creating other crafts, like telling a story through 1 minute. That's a massive skill where social media is headed. And just being and doing that and putting it to, like, this person puts it together with soccer, he's going to be able to create content beyond his age of wherever age he is now. And now he's kicking the ball. He's gonna know, like, what is captivating to the audience, and he's gonna be able to adapt to whatever when he's older. What is the content that he has to create? And the problem with being a professional soccer player is that that's limited to, it ends 1/3 of when you get to 1/3 of your life.
Yeah.
And so you have almost forfeited all of your other creative parts of yourself, because you've been so fixated. So actually, I think you may call people may call it like, oh, you got to be on the field or on TikTok. You got to be in the classroom or in the on the field. Like, no, like, why can I not diversify who I am? Because I'm actually setting the longevity of my enjoyment and relationship with the game. I'm actually setting up myself in a better position than if I only see soccer through the lenses of a soccer player, because that will end. That's
Yeah.
finite.
Yeah. I think like, a good example is like when I considered myself like just a player, and then I had a couple of serious injuries, like I didn't even want to watch soccer. Like I was
Hmm.
so
You become
It was so,
resentful
yeah, it
to
was
the.
so painful. Like I remember I had to, I felt like I had to show up and like support my team, and sitting on the, bench or sitting in the stands watching my team play. And I wasn't able to be out there on the field. Those are like some of the most like, it was like as painful as like the worst breakup I ever had, like it was tough.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I like go home, like I wouldn't want to watch Premier League, Champions League. Like I didn't want to watch soccer. I didn't want to think about it. And because if you've your whole life, you've like only enjoyed it in a certain way when the ball's at my feet or I'm on the field, then,
Yeah.
you're not, are you really loving soccer or are you loving like playing soccer? And I think those are two
Yeah.
different things, right?
Yeah. And you neglect yourself. Like, you love soccer more than you love yourself, and
Yeah.
soccer player stage will die before you die, type
Yeah.
of thing.
All right.
So
We can,
take us to
yeah, we
yours.
can transition to my story. It's funny. There's actually a lot of similarities, but I think I take it a little bit of a different route. So, I must have been about 17. I was playing in Greece, playing in the third division, and I had an incredible preseason. I was playing really well. I was starting all the friendlies. We had a great team. We had a great preseason, and I was like a huge part of that. And I felt, really, really great about myself. And then the first important game, it wasn't a league game, it was a cup game of the season, rolled around. And I remember being so nervous in a way that I wasn't for all the friendly games, because who cares if friendlies don't matter. And it's almost exactly what I said. Like the thing I was most afraid of was playing badly and making mistakes and losing the game. And so I tried to play as safe as I possibly could. I tried to avoid making mistakes, because I wanted to, I didn't want to be the one people were pointing fingers at when we lost. And we did lose. I played horribly, and
Damn.
I was the one people were pointing fingers at. Um, and even though that had been the one thing that I was trying to avoid, I tried to play safe so that I wouldn't be the one making mistakes. I made mistakes. I remember one goal was a long ball played in behind that I should have been quicker to cover. Went in behind me, and I was, kind of chasing, trying to catch up to the winger. I was playing fullback, trying to catch up to the winger, but he was passed, and he finished. So I think I got subbed off pretty quickly after that. For the last, I played probably like 60, 70 minutes, somewhere in there, and I got benched. And it's funny because as soon as I got benched, I started playing the best soccer I had ever played in my entire life in training. I remember it was like, and it was almost immediate. So, I had a tough week after that game. It might have been 2 weeks. I'm not completely sure. But we had the season opener, and I was on the bench for that. And then, or a Saturday or a Sunday, showed up to training on Monday. And I was, I had never played that well in my entire life. I was playing at fullback and I was literally dribbling past the whole team, scoring goals. Like in training, I remember my coach, was like looking at me kind of weird after one of the training sessions later on in the week. He was like, what's happened? Like, why are you all of a sudden playing so incredibly well? And it was, my teammates were noticing it as well. And then, it took a couple weeks for them to, believe that I was playing that well, I guess. Because, obviously I played so terribly in the game. And then I started a game, and again, I played terribly. I played so horribly. And I think, we had won like the first couple games of the season. We tied that game 0-0. And again, I was a player, people were pointing fingers at for the loss because I was one of the big, the changes to the starting lineup. It might've been like the same starting lineup every one of the first like 3 games. And then I started the 4th game and the rest of the people were the same. And we didn't win. I didn't play well. I'll definitely, admit that. Not to say that it was only my fault that we didn't win. They were playing fullback and we tied 0-0. So it was like horrible. But I didn't play well, or as well as I could have. And I think this, it's not like the whole season went exactly like this, but it's something that I can point to multiple moments throughout my career where when there was no pressure, I was an unbelievable player. And then as soon as there was a little bit of pressure, I crumbled. And, like I've talked about how I would play pickup with my friends who all played with me in the academy, and I was the best player easily. It wasn't even close. I remember used to play like 2v2 and 3v3 games in my backyard, and we would like show up and we play all these games. And I'm very like, I used to track my, games, assists, goals when I was like very young. So I was pretty like, like serious about like tracking things. I would track the pickup games, and I never lost. Not a single time. Didn't matter who they put me with. I always won. And maybe I was the one taking it the most seriously, but like, it's not like they were taking it as a joke. This was like point of pride to win in pickup, and I had a player come up to me and be like, why are you such a different player when we play pickup and when we play, when we go and train with the academy? And I was like, oh, it's different. And it is different, but it's the same game. The difference is mostly created in your mind. And my mind was my worst enemy when I was a player, because whenever there was a bit of pressure, I would try my best to, control the situation, try my best to avoid making mistakes. And it just does not work like that. I think, some of the best advice I've ever gotten is you will fail a lot more quickly by making no mistakes than you will by making mistakes. I had been benched while I tried to play it safe. I had like the thing that I feared the most came about by trying to prevent that thing. Whereas if I had just played freely, like I can't, I say this all the time to players, like I can't guarantee that if you just play, like nothing bad will happen to you, which it won't, and you just play freely, I can't guarantee that you'll succeed how you want to. But if you try to always play safe and avoid making mistakes, I guarantee that you will fail. Because, even I don't care what position you're playing, the best players in the world, you need to take risks. You need to, you can't always play it safe. It's not enough. So yeah, that's kind of my story about, crumbling under
so you would say,
a little bit of pressure.
Your mind held you back?
Yeah, I would say my mind, whenever I was under a little bit of, even just a little bit of pressure, just the wrong person watching me. One mistake early on in a game would lead to a horrible performance. And it was, it was any sort of pressure. And I was a different player.
This is like the fear of like, what will they think or what will they say? Becomes so prevalent as you go into higher levels. And for some reason, like, I think it's an, I don't know if it's ego, I don't know what it would be, but like when you feel that you are the alpha, then you don't care what they say or what they think. But when you feel that there's other alphas, then you go on a shell. It has probably a lot to do with the structure that we've decided to create between teacher students, doctor patient, coach player, all of these hierarchies, and so most relationships in human interactions are very vertical, but in the I think the environments that can create a horizontal relationship, for everybody in that space, are the ones where each person in that space reaches a higher capacity, or a higher potential. Because where it's horizontal, we're all standing, of this of the same value or of the same status, and then the hierarchy breaks that, and now the ones that are under are trying to get to the top, and so it's not that the hierarchical one doesn't create talented people, but it actually decreases the amount of people that come out of that. So I think it's tough because we can't influence the entire soccer world, but I can influence my team. And in my team, can I try my best to create an environment that's more horizontal for everybody, and help the best player understand that, and the not best player understand that, and the coach understand that, and the assistant coach understand that, and yeah, like I might be the head coach and there's an assistant coach on the title, but can I make everybody believe that this is our horizontal moment? Because if not, the pressure is gonna come in, and then there's gonna be envy, and then there's gonna be jealousy, and then competition within the and you start to, all these things start to remove the joy, the innate skill or the creativity that comes out of you. So yeah, I felt that, and I notice it in all the spaces wherever there's hierarchy. One thing that I sometimes do is like I try to become friends when I go into spaces. I become close to whoever's perceived as the head of the space, and I just go and like have coffee with them and become actually genuinely good friends. So that then if I ever have to speak in that space, I know that the head of that space is my friend. So I have like it removes any pressure. But yeah, I think the idea of pressure plays a toll on athletes.
Yeah, 100%. It's, it was definitely the thing that I struggled with the most. And like, to give some like, I guess, advice from my perspective, there's kind of two general ways that you can go about like dealing with pressure in my experience. And it's either, finding a way to be comfortable in high pressure environments. And then on the flip side, trying to find ways that you can make yourself uncomfortable in the environments you're in so often, so that when you go into a more high pressure environment, it's a little bit easier to deal with. So, I like, obviously, it depends on the team, but when I'm working with, decently high level teams, my training sessions are designed to stress them. All right. It's not going to be easy. It is going to be difficult and, challenging, hopefully, if I run a good training session, challenging physically, but also mentally. especially probably apparent in like when I work one-on-one with players, but the whole session is designed to make them think. They're going to make so many mistakes, and that's by design, because I think that if you get too comfortable in training, then that training isn't preparing you for games, because games are not comfortable, and they will never be comfortable. You don't know, every opponent that you're going up against. Going into a game, you're going into something unpredictable. You have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know how well the other people in those sorts of high pressure environments. Like, I'm not saying like, a scrimmage at training or a pickup game or something, but in high pressure environments, it's always, it's the unpredictability that creates that pressure. Because if you knew that you were going to go into a game and everything was going to be fine and you're going to play incredibly, you wouldn't be stressed. It's not knowing what's coming. That's what creates the stress. So, you could either find ways to stress players in training sessions by, not explaining the session beforehand, because making it a little bit unpredictable, adding in things that they, don't expect. Sometimes not. I do this more with individual sessions, because if you do this in a team session, it becomes insane. But when I'm working one-on-one with a player, I'll often explain what we're going to do next as we're doing the thing we're doing right now. So we won't stop and talk about how we're changing the drill. I'll just say, in the middle of the drill, all right, we're switching left foot only now, or we're going to one touch, or we're going to two touch. Or sometimes I won't even tell them, and I'll just passing back and forth, I'll start playing the ball in the air to them, just to keep them on their toes, kind of make it a stressful environment, because that's what's going to prepare them for games. And then going into how do I make games more of a comfortable environment, laughing and joking with players beforehand, pulling a player to the side and having a conversation, telling him, this game doesn't matter. Take that stress away, take that pressure away if I can. And this stuff players can do on their own as well. That I talk about all the time, to prepare themselves for games. But I think going back to your kind of story, the taking yourself too seriously, taking what you're doing too seriously in moments of pressure is a bad thing. You got to pull back a little bit, and take it a little less seriously. As contradictory as that sounds, we talk a lot about how you got to play naturally and let the game come to you. That's how you play your best. You can't control everything. So don't try to.
Oh, yeah. I think you're trying to you're off balancing or balancing, stressing you and removing the stress, stressing you, removing the stress, and finding that sweet spot somewhere in between. Yeah, man, you're constantly learning from every player and every coach, because some are way too on the opposite side where they don't care at all, and then there's complacency. And so what are the buttons that I got to hit on this player, on this coach? And they're all different, because we want an equation to copy and paste it.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody wants to be Klopp or Pep
but the best coaches, I think one of the, anyone can say, oh, we're going to do this in this session, we're going to do this next and into a game or whatever. But it takes a much more intelligent person to, speak to individuals, speak to a group of people, and help each player on that team, because every player needs something different. And it's tough.
Yeah, no, it is. And also knowing that you're probably not gonna be the guy for all of them. Nope. You might come short of removing the pressure or the insecurities from some players, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't speak of you as a bad coach.
I'm curious, I'm sure you played for lots and lots of different coaches. And you probably have 2 or 3 that you're that was my coach. That guy was the guy for me, but you probably have a lot more that you know,
That's like I didn't feel it.
you're like,
Yeah.
or maybe some coaches that you absolutely, hated in the moment. I know I have, looking
Yeah, yeah,
back,
yeah.
I'm a lot more like not so like, oh, I hate
But
that guy. He was a terrible coach. Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, no, for sure, we all do, and we have to remember that when we're coaching, because we might be that coach that they hate right then and there, and they might not understand why you're doing some things, and maybe 3, 4, 5 years later they will, but you
Yeah.
have to be okay with it's not working right now.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. I think it's time for
Takeaways.
3 key takeaways.
3 key takeaways. You want me to start?
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the detachment from the destination is a big one. Um, and like you're saying, it sounds counterproductive, but like if you're only focused on the destination, I cannot tell you how many resources or how many opportunities have come up um, on my way somewhere, which have helped me create what's next. So when I thought I was going to become a professional soccer player, I created relationships and got involved with different spaces that have turned me in who I am today. But if you're only focused on the destination, you're actually going to move. You don't have time to look around and pick up this is. And if you do get to this perceived destination, you're going to be equipped with significantly more resources if you look around to see what's on you. So detach from the destination. I honestly think the destination is an illusion. Um, the destination is just part of the journey. So yeah, detach from the destination.
Yeah, I think I'll say to be and this is something we talk about a lot, like uh be aware of what you think might be holding you back. Because like for uh knowing what it is earlier on, and for me, I think like getting to know myself a little sooner on in my career would have been like really helpful for me, because I think like a coach would like look at me and say like, oh, he's like mentally he's weak.
Mm.
And I didn't want to be that. So I would try. And I don't think like, not being able to deal with stress and pressure, like you can call it weak if you want to, but I think there are like there's probably advantages to that as well. I worked very hard in training sessions because I wanted to be prepared or something. Like I think knowing who you are will only help you, whereas trying to like, I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to be mentally like, I didn't want to like have a tough time dealing with pressure. So I thought like, no, that's not me.
Yeah,
But hiding that or like avoiding that conversation myself would have been difficult, but it would have been a lot
yeah,
easier if I had it sooner on. So I think, be aware of what might be holding you back. And whether that find out, have some conversations with yourself, have some conversations with other people. And
yeah,
don't be afraid to kind of explore that.
yeah. That's good. I think both of our stories had outside people, or there was other characters that either pulled you aside and said, "Hey, Christo, why do you play so good at pickup, and why are you not as good in games?"
Trash.
Or my entire trash. Um, or my story was actually somebody else's story. So I think maybe the last one would be who are you surrounding yourself by um, that can point out what's holding you back, or at least pointing out that something's holding you back, and then together you can come to the conclusion of what it may be. But I think it's very important that it's the characters within your set within your story are going to be the ones that are going to help you, because it's a intimidating process to call yourself out many times, and we don't take enough time to spend with ourselves. So who are you surrounding yourself with
Yeah.
that helps you? I think it's a good one.
All right. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for listening to episode 13 of the Infinite Improvement Podcast. Back next week, we're going to be talking about something each of us does or did before playing. So like a pre-match ritual, and, you know, why we did it, was the thought behind it, whether we, you know, think it's stupid now or would still do it. So that should be interesting. And yeah, thanks for listening. We're on YouTube, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Peace.
See you guys.